Hello, my name is Kathy Jameson, the Proposition Lady, and I'm here to help you understand the propositions in your 2022 California state election ballot. Today I'm going to walk you through Prop 30, the tax on income above $2 million for zero emissions vehicles and wildfire prevention initiative. Really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Are you ready? Let's get started. Prop 30 seeks to increase the tax on personal income over $2 million by 1.75%. with the revenue going to zero-emission vehicle infrastructure and wildfire suppression and prevention. The current income tax rate for those who make over $2 million is 13.3%. If Prop 30 is passed, the 1.75% increase will be effective January 1st of 2023 and would end either in 20 years or sooner if we reduce statewide emissions by 80% of 1990 levels. The measure is expected to raise between $3 and $5 billion per year. The revenue would be split amongst three sub-funds of the Clean Cars and Clean Air Trust Fund. 45% of the money would be used to fund zero-emission vehicles, 35% to install electric vehicle or EV charging stations, and 20% to hire and train firefighters. Let's start this discussion by following the money. Supporters of Prop 30 have raised over $37 million as of September 24th, $35 million of which was given by Lyft, the rideshare company. Around $12 million has been raised in opposition, mostly from private donors. $35 million is a lot of money. Is this just an altruistic move on Lyft's part? Or have they got another motive? In 2021, the California Air Resource Board adopted regulations that require rideshare companies like Lyft and Uber to get to zero emissions and ensure 90% of their cars are electric by 2030. Some figure that since Lyft is being forced to convert its driver-owned vehicle fleet, they would rather have the state pay for it than their independent drivers. Those who support the measure generally recognize that passing Prop 30 would benefit Lyft, but don't think there's anything wrong with that. Lyft has a lot of vehicles on the road, and if passing this measure will help convert their fleet faster, they're all for it. In addition, electric vehicles are expensive, and Lyft drivers are independent contractors. So there's another school of thought that says Lyft will not be able to convert 90% of their cars to electric without Prop 30, because the money California has allocated for this simply isn't enough. But Gavin Newsom wants you to know that, quote, just this year, our state committed $10 billion for electric vehicles and other infrastructure. While I don't typically like to highlight who all is for and against a measure, because I want you to come to your own conclusions instead of just voting in line with your political party, in this case it's interesting, so I don't mind telling you. Gavin Newsom is against the measure, either because of his stated complaint that the measure is a special interest carve-out, or because he's considering a run for president and has to position himself more as a moderate centrist, or because he gets support from wealthy donors who don't want to pay higher taxes. For whatever reason, we have Gavin Newsom aligned with the California Republican Party in opposition to Prop 30, while the California Democratic Party is supporting the measure. How often do we see Newsom and the GOP agree on anything? So that's kind of fun. The California Teachers Association is also against the measure. California already has some of the highest income tax rates in the country, and they may fear that if we continue to increase taxes on wealthy residents, they'll relocate to other states. If that happens, the amount of money we collect for the general fund will be decreased, thereby decreasing the amount of money available for schools. The Legislative Analyst's Office notes that there is no way to predict how many high-income residents will relocate if Prop 30 passes. Let's talk about how much money is already being allocated toward efforts to move California toward electric vehicles and prevent wildfires. The 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act included $7.5 billion for EV charging infrastructure at the federal level, of which about $383 million is expected to be spent in California. The state government also plans to spend about $2 billion in order to get to 1.2 million charging stations statewide by 2030. In addition, PG&E has begun the process of undergrounding 10,000 miles of high-risk power lines at an expected cost of $15 to $20 billion of ratepayer revenues, reducing the need for state spending on wildfire prevention. Yet the message from Prop 30 supporters is, we simply have to do more. Too many of our well-intentioned policies and goals just don't have enough funds to get us where we need to go. Prop 30 supporters argue that budget booms like California's current windfall are fleeting, and they worry that the legislature will turn its attention to other issues if electric vehicle funding is not set aside for the future. Opponents of the measure will point out that this measure locks the allocation of certain funds to a single issue, without the flexibility to change it for the next 20 years. This is a prime example of budget by ballot, and it could tie California's hands in future. Now, this is exactly the point of the measure, but those who worry about earmarking too many pieces of California's general fund to single issues will want to vote no. Another interesting question is whether California's electric grid can generate enough power to charge all these electric vehicles. If we don't expand the capacity of the electric grid, Prop 30 could result in more emergency conservation issues and rolling blackouts. Supporters of Prop 30 appreciate that half the money for incentives would go to people in lower income communities, and a share of the money for infrastructure would be used to install charging stations at apartment buildings. Funds from Prop 30 would also go towards reducing wildfire risks by clearing dry vegetation and increasing protective spaces around homes and businesses. And it funds personnel and equipment to increase our ability to fight fires once they start. In conclusion, there are many reasons to vote yes and many reasons to vote no. For those of us who are concerned about the worsening effects of climate change, it can be very tempting to just vote yes on any measure that crosses our path. But it's important to consider all consequences of the legislation before making a decision. People who are against the measure aren't necessarily monsters who don't care about the planet. They may just feel that the funds provided at the federal and state level are enough to get the job done, and they don't want to constrain lawmakers from allocating budget funds in future by adding more earmarks for specific projects into our already complex funding process. That's all for now, folks. Please visit the Proposition Lady channel for information on all 7 of the 2022 California state ballot measures. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I also encourage you to host your own proposition party to discuss the ballot measures with your friends. But most of all, don't forget to think independently and come to your own conclusions. There are 2 sides to every issue, and I hope you'll consider both before casting your vote. I'm here for you. We can do this. I'm Kathy Jameson, the Proposition Lady, and I appreciate you being here with me today. See you soon, California voters. Bye now.